Okay, good afternoon to everyone who's attending both on Zoom and here in person at Columbus KTC. Thanks very much for coming for our afternoon workshop on the Bodhisattva Manjushri and the practice that goes with the Bodhisattva Manjushri. As I was saying before we started the recording, who doesn't love the opportunity to increase their wisdom? And who doesn't love the opportunity to increase their compassion? Because these are two things we really need. We really need wisdom and we really need compassion. The world, as we see going on around us, is full of strife, confusion, and maybe even some bad attitudes. And sometimes those bad attitudes are coming from other people. And sometimes, I don't know about you, but sometimes a bad attitude is arising within my own mind. And I think I need a little taming for my own negative mental afflictions, which in the Buddhist teachings are called klesha, K-L-E-S-H-A, klesha. Our own mental afflictions arise in response to the environment we find ourselves in. And it can seem like either the place we're in is hostile, or maybe it's a little bit of us too. So we need some taming. We need a strong bodhisattva. We need a strong guru to help us navigate the world we're in. And so it makes me incredibly happy to see the sort of confluence of these two events. There are two events that are coming together here. Event number one is that we have this need for strength, wisdom, and compassion. And the other is that as the result of a years-long effort, Columbus KTC is going to start a monthly practice of Manjushri on Sunday mornings. And so this confluence of these two things has brought about this workshop today. Because I want to respect everybody's time, I only made the workshop for 2 hours. And so we will not be able to cover all facets of the Manjushri practice in that time frame. But what we will do is we'll start understanding Manjushri as a bodhisattva. We will start understanding what mantra practice is, and we'll start an understanding of the text that we have chosen to use for our monthly Manjushri practice. We're going to go through the text, talk a little bit about how to pronounce the Tibetan transliteration. We're going to talk a little bit about how to chant it. And I'm going to call on my man, Matthew, who has studied the chanting for this practice and is going to be my helper. Because this was a practice that my teacher, Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, only taught once that I know of in the United States. And it was to a summer family Dharma weekend at Horsehead Lake in Michigan in 1989. I remember the year very clearly because it was pegged to another thing that happened in my life, which is when I got permission from Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche during that retreat in an interview to do the 3-year retreat. I had wanted to do the 3-year retreat since 1982 when I finished Nundro. I really, really wanted to do the 3-year retreat. I was even thinking of going to the only place you could do it at that time, which was Scotland. And I asked Rinpoche, what do you think? And he's like, no. This is 1982. No. He said, your personal situation will not permit this. I didn't exactly know what that meant, but he had never steered me wrong. I mean, right, I had been his student for 5 years by that time, and he had never said no to me for just about anything. In fact, I think that might have been the first time he ever said no to me about anything. But I knew that because it was rare that he said no, that it was important that he said no, and I should listen. So I did. But a couple of years later, I said, I can't forget about it. And he said, yeah, I know. He said, how about this? He said, always nurture the wish to do this thing. But that way, he said, always nurture the wish to do it. And that way you won't be so disappointed if it doesn't come to pass, because you will have front loaded the idea and to be able to do it in a future lifetime, even if you can't do it in this one. And I'm like, yes. But then in 1989, I had gotten wind of his plan to start a 3-year retreat center in the United States. And in that interview up at Horsehead Lake, I said, Rinpoche, I know you told me to forget about it. I mean, like this is something I've been holding for 7 years, right? Because 1982 to 1989, 7 long years. I'm like, wee. So I asked him, I said, well, how about now? How about now? And he said, well, yes, it was always in my mind that you, and then he named another person, that you and this other woman would be in the first class. And I'm like, okay. You could have told me that in 82. But no, I had to purify some karma. Anyhow, so as far as I know, that time in 1982 was the only time that Khenpo Rinpoche taught this Manjushri practice that we're going to begin doing. And he never made it a priority for our congregation's group practice. Instead, Khenpo Rinpoche chose 3 bodhisattva chanting practices to be to be our core mantra practices as a congregation. Chenrezig, the Bodhisattva of Compassion, which was given to Khenpo Rinpoche by the 16th Karmapa. And the 16th Karmapa said, Kalu Rinpoche has been using this at his American centers. I think you should too. So that was the first congregate practice. The 16th Karmapa is reputed to have said, oh, compassion, good for America. Maybe he knew something about us. So the Bodhisattva's of compassion was the first practice we were given. The next practice we were given was the Buddha Amitabha, connected to the purification of attachment, and also connected to rebirth in Amitabha's pure realm of Dewa-chen. So that was the second congregational practice we were given. The next one after that was Tara, the swift one without fear, the female bodhisattva of compassion who embodies the removal of obstacles and the protection from fear. The next one after that we were given was the medicine Buddha, the great healer. And so these were our main practices. We did some others on the sides and on the margins, but these were our main practices. And so Manjushri was never given to us as something he encouraged us to do. He admitted that part of the reason for this was he himself was not that familiar with the practice. But it's okay, because for some reason here at Columbus KTC in the last 5 years, there's been a real surge of interest in Manjushri. So why not? And so we were very, very fortunate that we were able to get the empowerment given, and that Tulku Damchu Rinpoche was invited to our home monastery in Woodstock, New York this past summer to teach it. And some of us were able to be there for it. And so the practice that we're doing here is an amalgam of several different practices of Chenrezig. Have we handed them out yet? Okay, we'll do that in a minute. And so that we'll get through our opening prayers first, and then after the opening prayers, we'll hand out the booklets. And actually, wait a minute. Maybe what I should do is I'll give an introduction first. Reading transmission. Yeah, I'll give a short introduction and the reading transmission first. Okay, very good. So let's open the red books. We're going to do a speed practice here because it's common to begin with a prayer or 2 or 4. And so today, because we're in a bit of a hurry because we started late, we'll start on page 4 of the red books, chanting the refuge prayer. We're going to recite it 2 times in English and then recite it once in Tibetan. And this will dedicate the study and practice that we're doing here to the attainment of Buddhahood for ourselves and all beings. So we'll start with the English. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the assembly most excellent, I take refuge until I reach enlightenment. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I achieve enlightenment for the sake of all beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the assembly most excellent, I take refuge until I reach enlightenment. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I achieve enlightenment for the sake of all beings. And now we'll recite it in Tibetan. O Sanjay Chudang Sochi Chonamla Jangchu Pardu Dani Kyapsuchi Daji Jinso Jibe Sunam Ki Drola Penshir Sanjay Druparsho. And next we'll recite the 4 immeasurables 3 times, twice in English and then once in Tibetan, beginning with the words, may all sentient beings. May all sentient beings gain happiness and the cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never be cut off from the highest bliss, which is devoid of suffering. May they come to rest in the great impartiality, which is free of attachment and aversion. Another again and again. May all sentient beings gain happiness and the cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never be cut off from the highest bliss, which is devoid of suffering. May they come to rest in the great impartiality, which is free of attachment and aversion. And now in Tibetan. O Semchen Tamche Dewa Tan Dewe Gyutan Tempar Gyurchik Dugnal Tong Dugnagi Gyutan Trewar Jurchik Dugnal Mebe Dewa Tampatan Mintrewar Jurchik Nerin Chandan Dan Drawe Tom Yen Chimpola Nepar Jurchik. Okay, the last prayer we'll recite in this series is the short version of the 7-branch prayer. It is on page 9, the last 2 lines. And we'll recite it in English first, beginning with the words, I dedicate all virtue. And then we'll recite it once in Tibetan. I dedicate all virtue, however slight, I have accumulated through homage, offering, confession, rejoicing, exhortation, and requesting to enlightening. Chatsawadan chuchin shapadang Jesu yirang kershin sohayi Gewa chunze dagi chisapa Tamche dagi chanchu chirngo. All right, so now I'll begin with a short prayer and then we'll be able to start. O Palden Sawe Lama Rinpoche Tagi Chiwar Pede Tenshula Kadrin Jembo Koneche Sunte Kusum Tuging a Trup Sal to Soul. Okay, so the first order of business in when any practice is taught is for the teacher to give, if they are able, to give the reading transmission of the prayers. The reason this is part of it is because this way you have a blessing, the blessing of the author of the text, that the blessing that the author put on the text and then gave to their students, and then they gave to theirs, and they gave to theirs in an unbroken line until now. So please listen to the rather bad reading in Tibetan that I'm going to do, but know that receiving this, you're receiving a blessing from Manjushri through the author of the text. And think, well, even though I don't understand these words being said to me in Tibetan, may they be a blessing to my mind stream. And may my mind stream be able to manifest compassion and wisdom in the future. Okay, here we go. By the way, I'm going to pause the recording because my teacher told me that I can give reading transmissions via Zoom, but not via recording. So here we're going to just pause. Thank you so much. Just to briefly summarize, I started, I want to start by saying a few words about Tulku Damchu's teaching on Manjushri. And he started his teaching by saying, all of us are going to leave this world someday. And it's very important for us to do something that's important with the time we have left in this life. He made a joke. He said, if you're going to travel, you should have a balance on your debit card. So just in the same way that as human beings in this world, we should plan for our future lives by doing as much virtue as we can in this lifetime, realizing that Dharma is the only thing that will help us at the time of death. We practice with sincerity and completeness. So thank you again. And so then he gave a little bit of a teaching about this particular practice, and that doing the practices like Manjushri and Tara and so forth can help us put a seed of wisdom in us for the future. And I also mentioned before I started the recording that during the next session, not this next session today, but the next workshop on Manjushri, I'll also be talking a little bit about the chanting of the Heart Sutra, the great sutra about wisdom that really crystallizes all of the Buddha's significant teachings on wisdom into just a few lines. That it said, even if you chant this and don't understand the meaning, that if you chant it regularly, its meaning will slowly arise within you. It's kind of a powerful thing. So we'll be talking about that in the Manjushri workshop part 2, which will be held sometime in the next month or two. So I want to say a couple of things about the Bodhisattva Manjushri. The Bodhisattva Manjushri has a great deal of symbolism. There's a great deal of symbolism in his form. In fact, shall we hand out the booklets? Let's hand out the booklets. We have prayer booklets for you. Now, these are these to be kept or no? Okay, these belong to KTC. Let me see if, hey, Matthew, do I have a PDF of these? Okay, and where will I find it?
Send it to your email.
Oh, right. Okay, that's right. Okay, very good. So I'll just look you up. And I'm going to put this on screen for the folks who. Oh, there it is. I found it. Thank you very much. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna go for another 10 minutes or so, and then we'll take a break. I'm just going to talk about the iconography. There is so much to be said about Manjushri as a bodhisattva, but in order to save us some time, all of the bodhisattvas, the 8 great bodhisattvas are, we could say, disciples of the Buddha Shakyamuni, and they are also a manifestation of his activity in the world. They are manifestations of beings who have attained awakening through their practice of Dharma, and who manifest in different forms in order to tame the different kinds of beings. Any person, and I'm sure there are a few in this room, any person who has ever tried to teach anything to anyone will know that each and every person is different. They have different personalities, they have different for lack of a better word, vibe or energy. They have different things that they understand. They have different places of non-understanding, you know, things they just can't understand. Everyone is completely and utterly different. And because of this, the Dharma itself has to be presented in different forms, in different ways, to meet the different needs of all the different kinds of beings. The Buddha said, all of us have Buddha nature. All of us have a mind that has the capacity to wake up to its own awakened inner nature. We call it Buddha nature. We're a little parochial in that way. But we all have the potential to awaken. But how do we awaken? You know, how do we come to know this Buddha nature, this wisdom nature of our mind? How do we come to know it? And these bodhisattvas, the 8 great bodhisattvas, all are different manifestations of the purification of confusion and the turning of that confusion into wisdom. And we currently have a body, a speech, and a mind. And our mind is composed of a wisdom aspect and a confused aspect. Our confused aspect holds all of our negative karma and positive karma from previous lifetimes and manifests as our world of experience, the world of experience we have right now. Our previous karma, according to the teachings, determines how we experience ourselves, how we experience the world, how we experience others. It's all dictated by the accumulation of karma and habits from previous lifetimes. But we don't just have to accept that. We don't just have to accept that. We can begin to change that. I met a man one time who was trying to tame his anger. He said, I'm scared that I'm always going to be angry. I'm always going to be an angry man, and I won't be able to change that. And my feeling about his case or his situation is that he may never be able to change the first moment, because that's what Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche said about habits. He said, your habits are kind of pre-programmed, so they may keep coming up. So you may not be able to control that first moment of something, but slowly the second and third and fourth moment of that emotion can slowly come under your control. And this is the function of Dharma. The sitting meditation practice we all know and love gives us the power to let go of a thought. You know how meditation works, right? You're doing shamatha meditation. You're placing your attention on the breath as it comes and goes, and then a big, ugly, hairy thought oppresses you. And then you remember that you're meditating, and you touch that thought and you say, thinking, as if to say, not now. And then the thought, unsupported, disappears. And the openness that is left is natural mind. Our natural mind, our natural awareness. And slowly over time, as we notice and let go of this thought and this thought and this thought, we get the power, we get stronger and more able to take hold of the thoughts that are useful and healthy and let go of the thoughts that are unuseful and unhealthy. And in so doing, we build a new habit, a new set of habits that then take us forward in our life. And so this is the function of all Dharma teaching, is to give us the power to begin steering our own vehicle of our own body, speech, and mind, and being able to gradually turn it from this ordinary body of flesh and blood into the body of a Buddha. That's what Shantideva says in the first chapter of his Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. He said, this Dharma is so powerful that it gives us the ability to change this ordinary body of flesh and blood into the body of a Buddha. And the Bodhisattvas have already done this. They've already accomplished this. And through their example, where they make an aspiration, may I, when I become an enlightened being, be able to communicate with this type of person. May I be able to manifest this. May I be able to manifest that. They come to fruition in the way that they aspired. So Manjushri made the aspiration that he would be able to help beings develop wisdom just by reciting his name, that their intellect would grow, that their capacity for knowledge and wisdom would grow just by saying his name. And so when he became an awakened being, it became possible because he had created the circumstance for people to connect to him. And so this is why we have practices of the 8 great bodhisattvas in order to help us overcome our negativity. Now, we may be drawn to one Buddha or one bodhisattva over another. That's because of our karma. Our previous karma dictates who we will be connected to and who we will not feel connected to in terms of bodhisattvas and practices. And so if you're connected to Manjushri, you're going to want to practice Manjushri. If you're connected to Chenrezig, you're going to want to practice Chenrezig. If you're attached to and connected to Tara, you'll want to practice Tara, and so on. Some maybe you'll like all of them. But it depends. It's better to specialize eventually. You can practice them all, but eventually you might want to specialize. So let's take one moment to look at the image of Manjushri that is on the front cover of our book. I have it in front of the folks on Zoom. It's now on your screen. We're doing there are so many different forms of Manjushri. The form of Manjushri we are going to be practicing is actually it's orange, but he's also red. So there's a couple of different ways he's explained. But the idea is that this golden orange color is associated with richness and the wisdom of the Buddha Ratnasambhava. And he is, but in this particular practice, he's a little more red. I'm trying to think here. I'm trying to look for what Toku Damchu had to say about this color, but I'll come back to that in a minute. Oh, here it is. Yeah. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay to see him as red, as the text is quite specific about this. But it's all right if you see him as orange, because that is the most common way he's visualized. In his right hand, he's holding aloft a sword. You can also see there are images of Manjushri where his hands are crossed in front of his heart, and his right hand is holding the stem of a lotus flower upon which a small sword appears. But you can also see him actually holding the sword aloft. Toku Damchu says here it is held aloft. It's the wisdom of selflessness. Through the wisdom of selflessness, we cut through the delusion of self and self-fixation, and we cut through all of our kleshas, our mental afflictions. His left hand is holding a stem of a lotus on which sits the 100,000 verse Prajna Paramita. The word prajna in Sanskrit means wisdom. Paramita means perfection. So it was said that the Buddha taught several versions of the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra. There's one that has 100,000 verses, and then there are others that have 10,000 verses and so forth. The Heart Sutra is one of the shortest of these. And it wasn't spoken by Shakyamuni, it was spoken by Chenrezig, actually, but that's a whole nother story that we'll get into in our next iteration of this class in a month or two. So in Manjushri's left hand, he is holding the stem of a lotus upon which sits this 100,000 verse text of the Perfection of Wisdom. This is the wisdom that differentiates between the relative truth and the ultimate truth. And in other words, it is the union of the two truths. This sword, it has two edges. Khenpo Rinpoche, when we asked him about wisdom, he said, well, there are two kinds of wisdom. There's the relative wisdom and the ultimate wisdom. Relative wisdom, he said, is the wisdom that understands the truth of how things appear in this world. we all know how things appear in this world. We have objects surrounding us all day long that science tells us are mostly made of air. You know, physics say, you know, oh, those atoms and molecules, you could probably put your hand through them, but no, you can't really put your hand through them. Theoretically, they don't exist the way they appear to exist, but you don't want to go bumping your head against one of these pillars, for example. The wisdom of how things, the truth of how things appear is that things appear solid, real, permanent, unchanging. And the same is true, not just for phenomena out here, but our own self-concept appears to be solid, permanent, real, and unchanging. Our thoughts appear to be solid, permanent, real, and unchanging, but they're not. That's the ultimate truth, is that nothing exists the way it appears. In other words, we are living in a world of impermanence and interdependence, a world that is governed by impermanence and interdependence, but somehow we refuse to believe this. Somehow we refuse to believe this. We fight over everything. We fight over people, we fight over emotions, we fight over things. And we're always getting into some kind of trouble because we're trying to demand that the phenomena of this world somehow are permanent. We try to demand that they're permanent and unchanging. How many of us have had a friend change their opinion about us? And then we get really angry. You know, how dare they change their opinion? They're supposed to always like me. And so on and so on. So we always believe that things are somehow permanent and somehow unchanging when that is not the truth. When if we truly, at a very deep level, understood the impermanence and interdependence of everything, we would be more chill about everything. We would be much more chill about everything. We wouldn't demand that everything meet our particular want or need. We would be at peace with ourselves and at peace with others. But that's not how we're experiencing it. So we need wisdom, the other kind of wisdom, which is the wisdom that knows how things really are. And that's how Rinpoche introduced us to the idea of wisdom. He said there are two kinds, the wisdom that knows how things appear and the wisdom that knows how things really are. And that eventually through the practice of Dharma, hopefully, we can begin to loosen this relative grasping and to begin to open up into the openness of a mind that is limitless in its ability to experience, limitless in its potential to know and understand things and know and understand itself. And that's what's symbolized by that sword and by that book. Because of time, we'll have to stop here. Isn't that a shame? To take our 5-minute break. Manjushri, I'll say one more thing. He's depicted as wearing silks and jewels, a crown with 5 gems on it that symbolize his attainment of the 5 wisdoms and the purification of 5 negative mental afflictions. So it's crowning, he is crowned by wisdom. He has dark black hair that half of it is tied up on his head in a top knot and half of it flows freely on his shoulders, symbolizing that his enlightenment is unitary, but its manifestations are many. The 13 ornaments he is wearing, the bracelets, the armlets, the anklets, the belt with tinkling bells hanging from it, the blouse, the skirt, the leggings, the scarves that adorn him. All of these 13 ornaments symbolize the 13 levels of bodhisattva attainment as it's spoken of in the Tantras. And so Khenpo Rinpoche said, by looking at the form, you absorb the meaning at a very deep level through the iconography. And so by looking at images of Manjushri, even if we don't understand what it all means, we receive a blessing to our stream of being. So because of time, we do have to stop here. We will take a 5-minute break. So set your little timers and try to get back up here in 5 minutes, okay? And I'm also going to pause the recording. And thank you to the person here for reminding me to start the recording. And we'll have to do this again. So we're going to pause the recording. Now we'll see you all very soon. Okay, thanks to everybody for coming back. I like to joke about the breaks I give to people, and I like to say I'm not beyond attachment, so I'm always glad when you come back. Yeah, I would love someday to be beyond that attachment, but anyway, I appreciate you being here. I was busy during the break answering my messages that I got from the Zoom audience. And the folks in the Zoom audience asked a couple of questions I'd like to mention in passing here. One of the things they asked was if a copy of the text could be made available to them, and I'm assuming that it's okay for us to share this text. Yeah.
The digital copy.
The digital copy. Okay, yeah. Matthew McKittrick, our friend here, he is. Can I call you a puja nerd?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know if that's I kind of like it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a puja nerd. I love to chant. And so he's really, really helpful to us as we try to get some of these things created in a forum so that folks can read them and use them here at KTC. And because of his interest in Manjushri that I appreciate, he's helped us make this text happen with the help of several of our scholars, Khenpo Urgyen, Khenpo Sanjay. All of them help to select the prayers that we have in this booklet. And so this is a really helpful guide for us as we begin to do a monthly practice of Manjushri. Someone asked someone on the Zoom audience asked if I could provide an outline of what we're going to talk about in the second hour. Well, we're well into the second hour. And so all we are going to do, we are not going to have a big ambition for this, the time we have remaining, except to learn how to chant this a little bit. And I'm going to, because I was talking with Matthew during the break. And so all we're going to try to accomplish in the next, 40 minutes or so, because I think if you guys are all right, we'll run over 10 minutes, if that's okay with you. We'll run to 10 minutes past the hour. If you have to leave, I do understand. And the recording will be made available to you tonight at the earliest and tomorrow morning at the latest. It will be a link to the Dropbox of the handouts from today, and a link to the Dropbox of the recording, and a link to the Dropbox of the digital version of the text will be made available to everybody who registered for this program tonight at the earliest and tomorrow morning at the latest. And this way you'll have access to these. So I was talking with Matthew just now, and we're going to just focus on the two main prayers that we'll be reciting for Manjushri. The first one is the Gangloma, which is in praise, the praise of Manjushri. You will find it on page 3 of the text. It says page 3, right? Page 3?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Well, it's not page 3, it's practice number 3.
Practice number 3. Okay, it's practice number 3. Okay, thank you. And it has pictures in the on either side of the words, the praise of Manjushri. It has little little pictures of the lotus and sword. I'm sorry, the the book and the sword. And if you have trouble finding it, I'm fine to wait. Everybody there? Anybody not there? Okay, cool. Now I'm going to get it in front of the folks here at home, so we can all be looking at it. Here we are. I'm just going to take a couple of minutes here at the outset to say a few things about Tibetan. Actually, I want to say something about something that came up from somebody here during the break. They asked, someone from the audience here asked about the two kinds of wisdom. The wisdom, you know, of the two types of mind. I said that we had two aspects of our mind: a wisdom aspect or an awakened aspect of the mind, and a confused aspect of the mind. And somebody asked Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche one time, look, if we have Buddha nature, if we have a wisdom aspect in our mind, how come we're not Buddha now? It's a legitimate question. If we all have Buddha nature, how come we're not Buddhas already? How come? And he said, well, it's not that simple. He said, our mind is limitless. This is the teaching, it's the teaching of the Buddha that our mind is limitless. And he said, and this means that the mind is all potential, including the potential for mind to not know itself. That's the confused aspect. And he said, these two aspects have been side by side from beginningless time until now. And because we have not yet dispelled the confusion, it remains this mere, he called it a mere sheen of ignorance, like the shimmering sheen of oil slick on a puddle. This mere sheen of ignorance has covered our Buddha nature from beginningless time until now. And it is the function of all Dharma to dispel this mere sheen of ignorance, so our natural Buddha mind, our Buddha nature can shine through. So that's the function. So anyway, I had to explain that because I thought that was a really good point the person brought up. I wanted to explain that. And that the other thing I wanted to mention was a little bit about reciting prayers in Tibetan. Because I've been teaching now for almost 30 years. I graduated from 3-year retreat in 1996. So I'm coming up on 30 years this May. It's like wild, right? And in that time, I've met so many people who ask, you know, why is it that we still recite things in Tibetan? Surely we could start reciting things in English. And I say, yes, the day is still ahead of us, but we're going to get there. We will get there someday. I asked Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche about this, and he said, from the point of view of the great masters who taught in the West, the English translations up to this point have been imperfect. And they think of them as only temporary and not definitive. And I said, well, why is that? And he said, well, because enlightened beings aren't doing the translating. He said, in Tibet, enlightened beings actually did the translation from Sanskrit to Tibetan so that they could ensure that the meaning of the Tibetan words corresponded in a blessing way to the meaning of the Sanskrit, which itself was a translation. You get the idea. You know, so this idea of translating being done by beings who have awakening themselves as being the definitive translations, I can get that. He said, we just haven't had any enlightened people who are native English speakers. He said, but it will happen. He says, I'm confident it will happen. Until then, he said, the way he sees it, he said, is that reciting it in the language it was written in conveys a great blessing. And reading it in your own language conveys great meaning. And that it's good if you can do it in both. so that you get both. And what I see as a teacher is I see people forming opinions, and their opinions are at either end of the spectrum. There are some people who say, I don't care about the blessing. All I want to know is what it means. I'm not going to recite it unless I know what it means. And at the other end of the spectrum, we have people who say, oh, I'm so devoted to the Tibetan language, I don't care that I don't know what it means. Well, each of these people, in my opinion, need to take a couple of steps toward the middle way. The people who are stubborn about only being able to recite things they know the meaning of, they need to take a couple steps toward blessing. And the people who are all about the blessing need to take a couple steps toward meaning so that they can have the best of both. Anyhow, so that's my 28 cents worth on that. So right in this minute, we're going to learn the Tibetan chanting. And you'll see in the first line, you'll see the word Lama, Dang, Gunpo. So let's talk about what's going on in a Tibetan transliteration. The A in a transliteration tends to be the A in father, in the English word father. So this is Lama. And it's not Dang, it's Dang. Okay, Lama, Dang. And then the O you'll see in the word Gun has an umlaut or 2 dots over the top, which gives it the oo sound. Gun. But then you see the next O for the word po is a long O. So when you see the O without the umlaut, it's an O sound. And then we have Jam. So there's our A and father. Pal, there's our A and father. Yang, our A and father. And then the NG sound is very idiosyncratic, and it will take us a while to learn. So, but just for now, think about what your tongue does on the roof of your mouth when you say the word sing with exaggeration. Sing. Nga, 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 nga. Those of you who like the Three Stooges. Nga, nga, nga. Okay. Okay, so that nga, that's the nga sound. But you might not be able to do that. Yang. Isn't that funny? Isn't that interesting? Chak. Tal. Ah, there's something. Tasal? No, that's Vulcan. So Tasal is Vulcan, but the pronunciation. So we're going to use putting a T and the S sound together. Tal. And then what do we have next? What's the next one? Lo is right. What's the next one? Gong. Okay. Oh, and now we have one we don't know. And the I, the letter I, is an E sound. Gi. What's the next one? What's the next one? Drew. Okay, you guys, it's like you learned something. Okay, now here's an I that is not alone and that is not at the end. It is an I sound. Drip. Drew, drip. The NY sound is not Nayi. Again, this is not Vulcan. It's Ni with a Y sound thrown in. The T, this letter T-R-I-N. Somebody want to take a chance on it? Yeah. Trin, exactly, Trin. And then the next one is an E that is not a final E, but in concert with an L. Somebody want to take a chance? Drell, correct. Ni, okay, what's the next one, guys? Together. Tar, okay, what's the next one? What's the next one? Okay, I want to say something about a final G and a final K. They kind of disappear a bit. Dog or dot. So that's kind of interesting. Okay, let's go with the next 3. Rob, sell, way, right? Okay, so there's an A that's not the A in father. Oh, shoot. But that's because it's it takes on the English pronunciation of AY. Way. Okay, let's see if we can get through one more line. Next one is, somebody want to say? Or group? Yeah, you're all together. What's the next one? G, that is correct. What's the next one? Yay, that's correct. What's the next one? Dun, correct. What's the next one? Yep. What's the next? Correct. What's the next one? Jin, correct. What's the next one? Zik. Uh-huh. What's the, oh, now we've got a toughie. Okay, cheer, cheer. And then what's the next one? The next one? Correct. What's the next one? Tuk. Yeah, next one. Car. And the next one? Leg. Uh-huh. And then we have, the next one is, and then the final one on that line is Zin. So again, it's not Vulcan. It's not Dzin, it's Zin. Okay, yeah, so it's like that. I think we got a good start. Do you think we got a good start, Matthew?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you want to show us how to chant this?
Sure. So the first line of the prayer, we're actually going to use a flat melody. That is the embodiment of refuge and bodhicitta. We're only going to chant that once in this particular famous practice. Starting on line 2, where it says Gangi Lo, that's where the melody is going to begin. And we're going to carry that melody through to the next page until we get to the mantra, which is about 2/3 the way down through the page in the center. When we get to the mantra, together, we're going to use a melody to chant the mantra a handful of times, about 8 times slowly. And then we'll silently recite the mantra to ourselves. And then once we are finished with that, we'll pause for about 20 seconds or so. If you're already familiar with the visualization, you can go ahead and take the opportunity to dissolve that as the instructions have been given, or you can just simply allow your mind to relax and rest in the nature of your mind. After about a 20-second pause, then we'll come together and we will chant the last 4 lines. And that's really all for this practice. It's rather short.
And the visualization will be taught during part 2, our next class.
Through this practice, you have prayer hands, Anjali. So your hands are folded in prayer and supplication for the practice. And if you'd like, I can go ahead and start on.
Yeah, please go right ahead.
If you already know this, feel free to chime in as well. O Lama Dahum Bojam Palyam Lachakshalo Gangi Lodro Dribne Chindra Nita Ramda Raselway Jine Dunkum Jinji Jin Chir Niki Yutukar Len Sin Ganda Sipe Sonrare Muntom Dunya Chizi Droto Kuna Buchi Tarse Yela Drujo De Sum Drutar Chendro Yomo Nilong Leki Chatlo Draze She Mare Kunsa Dunya Yugu Jinye Jose Trinam Dune Dachi Sachim Tarsum Yunten Luzo gyalse tu chudra chudam chuni gendre da se jamba yang lalu Sente kehi kenrause dalu ultimo parasale kadang tenshu Tupai Lodra Yang Saldu So Omarapasanadi 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 Omarapasanadi
Omarapasanadi, 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 Omarapasanadi. Omarapasanadi, Omarapasanadi.
Omarapasanadi. And now we're going to chant the seed syllable D until we run out of breath. D. And the remainder of the practice. Gangse tawar dupa chense war luna Gongpo jamyang de Geng me paryang tawar show.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That is the first of these practices that we're going to be reciting. I don't know, do we have enough time? I think we have enough time to do some chanting of the other one. now do we have two different melodies for these two prayers that are coming from the Karma Chakme practice?
Yes, and would you, just to save time, depending on your thoughts, we could maybe skip the aspiration, which uses the same melody, and go directly into Lion of Speech?
Sure, yes, yeah, if the melody is the same, that's great. So, so which page will you have them turn to?
Turn to the page, it says clearing away the darkness of delusion. Looks like this.
We're going to bypass the initial prayer because the melody is the same.
So it is not written here, but before the first word that we chant, Honchok, before that, we say Namo. That while that isn't written here, that's something that is traditionally said on the first recitation. What I mean by that is the next three lines are refuge and bodhicitta. We're going to recite those three lines 3 times through, but we're only going to say Namo the first time. And we're going to use prayer hands for this part of the practice as well. Then the melody, we will continue, and that melody will remain the same, unchanged, until we get to the mantra. When we get to the mantra, we're going to use a different melody for that. Don't worry, you've already heard it before. I don't want to spoil the surprise. But we're going to go ahead and recite that mantra together a couple of times. And then we're only going to do 21 quiet recitations of this one, since it's a little longer. Then we're going to restart that melody after dissolving our visualization and sitting for about 20 seconds. We're going to pick back up the melody, carry through to the top of this page that starts with Dak La Ka Dam. There's some small Tibetan script at the bottom.
You remember small print? We know it, we love it.
I just want to point out that at the end of that top line, Your Do Soul, we're going to take a brief little pause. And then when we resume the chanting, the melody is slightly shortened. It is a shorter, abbreviated version of what we will be chanting here in just a moment. I just wanted to call that out. So just to ease confusion. One last note, as you turn the page, you'll notice there's a lot of Lama Kathy's favorite small print. On this other page, though, there are 4 more tsikans to the practice. That is an important part of the dedication. I just didn't want you to forget that those were there because they're kind of disjointed. So
Okay.
we'll use prayer hands throughout. If there's any other notes, I'll try and pass them along. I
Okay,
apologize.
that's good.
So
Yeah, by the way, Matthew learned these melodies from Tulku Damchu's Umdze and assistant Kempo
Lama Sonam.
Lama Sonam. And so he made a recording of Lama Sonam singing this, and that's how he learned it. And I enjoy learning melodies, but I have not learned this one yet. So I have to, I'm really happy that Lama Sonam was able to teach this to Matthew, and so that he can teach it to us. So I'm ready for you to begin. Okay.
Passing note, for those of you that attended the Poa retreat, you may recognize this melody from Poa practice. Namo Konchok Sungdum Lama Jom Yam La Dunam Taktu Dagni Kyapsu Chidroe Dundu Chom Den Jampal Drew Control Sundu Mama Jayam La Dunam Taktu Dani Kyapsu Chidroe Dundu Chom Den Jampal Drew Kuncho Sumdu
Lama Jaya Laduna Taktu Danitya Su Shi Droe Dendu Chongde Champa Drun Tong Pe Dawa Dang Senge Tendu Di Le Utru Danye Chene Iso Rudu Pe Rami Jampa Marco Shache Paradre Puti Zenchin Kir Hiltro Shu Tanka Drumle Korla Se Ma Dete Raldri Sorji Nagi Ko Krele Yang Chen Lam Go Saint John Raldri Puti Cha Na Sing Ika Dardan Rinchen Du Me Je Yugi Tukar Hemata Haji Te Roundry Ritsan Nagi Ko Tale True Sanjay Johnson Da Bani Dami Shera Sanjay Da Suke Shera Sanjay Na Again, Nampa, Dune, Chi, Mo, Se, Sunda, Chude, She, Po, Ye, Chuna, Dune, Rangi, Dre, Par, Te, Idanurgu Juwashi Chudune Rangi Ninga Tifar Om Shri Mamedi Pama Jushri Mum Shri Jaja Gadi Shri So Om Shri Mamedi Pama Jushri Mum Shri Jaja Vardani Shri So Om Shri Mameti Manjushri Mum Shri Jaja Shri So
Om Shri Manjushri Om Shri Warani free soul. Now we're going to resume the melody, wrong lane. Oh, wrong lane, true lane, la, oh, ni, nam, ka, gam, wa, true la, la, chu, ye, chu, do, na, do, be, yeah, and ten, now, you'll see, do, the, trashy, say, ta, yea, ra, ling, chi, la, mi, lo, chu, true, no, ti, lam, te, jamba, ya, you. Shodara, Hada, Tenchu, Ta, Amche, Ni, Tome, Kembe, Shera, Yo, Urdu, So, Senge, Hede, Te, Na, Yahweh, Sebo, Jahwe, Yam, Dogma, Raldri, Puti, Ze, Mawe, Senge, La, Cha, Sa, Cheke, Yede, Te, now Sanjay Tamche J Yo Raudri Uti Zip Yang Chen Ma Cha Sa to turn the page, please. Hey, Sarah, Shay, do me, Shay, Trempe, so, to, ne, Shinsu, so, da, me, hey, Mawe, Senge, you. One last very quick prayer on the next page.
Okay, one last prayer. Oh, very next page. To satisfy the needs of beings dwelling in
Yes.
10 directions.
These are verses from the Bodhicharya Avatar written by Shanti Deva. There's no visualization for these, and we're going to revert back to the Gangloma melody that we used when we started chanting. O chaktu nam ke te tu pe sem chen kundu drje chi chi tar jang yang Umdze Jisi nam kane padam Joa jisi ne jurpam Desi dani yurne Joe do ma sewa show Go away, do ya, they could la Manjushri John Chu Sampe into ye Droa de la Chuha Show. So Nandini or
Yeah, and so I will take a little break here for a minute. I hope this was thank, by the way, wave all the friends there. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Matthew. I appreciate, I'll have you stay here until we finish the this gives you an idea of the basic melodies, and you're going to be able to watch this video and practice with the video for the two main prayers that we'll be reciting. The Gangloma, general prayer to Manjushri, which you could feasibly do every day, is just a prayer asking for wisdom. And then also the sadhana, which has a mantra practice. The mantra practice as taught by Karma Chakme of the red Manjushri and his consort. And we'll get into the visualizations for both of these practices on our next go round. So we'll call it the Manjushri Part 2. And because of time, I don't want to keep you much longer. So I just want to take a moment to thank everyone at home. I see that there are some questions in the chat. I will take a quick look at the chat. Let's see. Somebody says, thank you. Somebody says, oh, got it. Okay. Well, I'm very sorry that the links are giving you a 404. And this happens sometimes. I put a couple of links in the chat and people were a little frustrated because they were getting a 404, and we are sorry that didn't work out for you, but we will try to test these links tonight before we mail them out. And so that the ones you get hopefully will not give you a 404. Yeah, fingers crossed. So I think that is all that they were talking about that. Yeah, as Sunma, thank you, Sunma Solha, who is our Zoom host today. She made a comment at the end, thanks to Matthew for teaching us some chanting, and Lama Kathy. And then she wrote, striving for wisdom is so important, and your help is appreciated. So that goes for all of you coming today, not knowing what the program was going to be exactly, and giving it some of your faith and wisdom and compassion. I really appreciate it, and thank you, Matthew, for sharing the chanting. And we'll dedicate the goodness of this session to the attainment of wisdom by all beings, near and far, and the attainment of compassion by all beings, near and far. And so for this, we'll turn to is it the very last page in the book?
the last page.
Second to last page in the book. And let's see if I can do this, bring this up. You have to wait a second so I can get the Zoom audience in the right place. We're still It'll take me a minute here. We're getting there. We're getting there. One more page. Okay, there we go. All right. So we'll chant this together. Please feel welcome to continue.
O sonate
Sipati tome vedranam jene kegana chibala nupai sipe sole droadro arsho champava vochitar kimpada kuntu sampo de shinte da kungi jesu da loche Ewadi tatam cheraptu yo. Okay, just one moment. Okay. Okay, thanks to all the people at home and all the people here. I can't wait to get back together again either next month. Maybe we'll try for December so we can get it all done in a month's time to go for part 2. So, Omane Peme Hong.
next Sunday.
Oh yeah, and don't forget, next Sunday, we're going to try to get a Zoom link out to everybody so that you can join online. We will be Zooming the monthly Manjushri 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. on the 4th Sunday, no, is it 4th? 4th Sunday of the month, every month. So, okay, everyone, take good care.